think it was late July 2002. 9/11 was 2001. We entered Afghanistan. I was a young 21-year-old at the time, flying in. I was on a C-17 coming in from Germany. And what is funny story, we were actually in Germany. We went from Fort Bragg to Germany, and we're young, 21 years old. We had a few drinks at a local German bar on base. They would not let us leave base. Obviously, we were in a very wartime situation. And I remember the first time we left, we flew for, I think from Germany to Afghanistan, where we were going was 8 hours. So I remember we were about 7.5 hours into the trip, and somebody being funny woke us up and said, "Welcome back to Germany." We thought they were kidding, but they weren't. So we flew, and if I can remember correctly, 4 hours or so when we were over a country called Georgia, not the Bulldogs. We had to turn around because they received word that there was hostile fire in Afghanistan where we were going, and it wasn't safe. So we had to turn around and go back. But we didn't know that. We had departed. Half of us fell asleep in these C-17s. I don't know if you know what a C-17 is, but we actually had, C-17. So I flew in a C-30, C-17, C-5, but this was a C-17. So we went back to Germany and stayed another 2 days, I want to say. And then finally we made the trip into Afghanistan. And I remember, I'm a Tennessee boy. I was young. I've seen all the movies, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korean War. You know what just happened in 9/11. And here we are. It's July 2002, and here we are going to Afghanistan, home of Osama bin Laden, where they have terrorist training camps. And I remember looking out there was only a couple windows on a C-17. So when I looked out the window, I remember seeing these rocky terrains. Think desert with rocky mountains. Okay. And I didn't even know any history. Later on, I read the history about Afghanistan, Russia in the late 70s, 80s. They went over there and they spent 10 years over there. Mighty Russia. But if you know your history, Russia was a very powerful country in World War II when they pretty much helped defeat Nazi Germany. And then we all know about East and West Germany. East and West Berlin. So we all know the Cold War and how powerful Russia was. Well, they got their tails whipped in Afghanistan by nomads. They were, if you've seen the movie Red Dawn, one of my favorite movies of all time, which is kind of funny considering what happened in Red Dawn. Russia came over, and Russia and some South American, Cuba, in the movie Cuba, Russia. They invaded America, came in, airborne, dropped in, took over America, parts of America. It was a big battle. But they did this in the late 70s and 80s in Afghanistan. Well, the Afghanis, they fought hard. And they killed many Russians, in which I've actually even got Russian belts. Yes, I'm allowed to have a Russian belt. Bought it from locals in Afghanistan. $10 a belt, something cheap. And even back then when I was a lightweight, I couldn't even put the belt around my waist. They were probably like this big around their waist was. maybe a size 28, you know. But got a couple Russian belts with the Russian sickle. And they actually, when we were first over there, they were selling people like muskets, you know, like the Russian rifles that were over there. I don't know if this was a dead Russian, maybe, who knows. But I got a belt, a couple of belts. But anyway, the Russians finally, after 10 years, they said, we're getting out of here. And if you think about it, same stuff happened in Afghanistan. Yes, we finally caught Osama bin Laden. Thank goodness. And we destroyed many terrorist training camps. Afghanistan was, I can't remember that movie, but where it's just like open warlords. You know, they had terrorist training camps just open to everybody. Anybody wants to come be a terrorist, come here, train. Osama bin Laden, train you up, whatever. But I remember flying in all the way back. See, I get on these stories, but if I go back, I remember flying in, young guy, green around the ears. I was still private, I think, when I first went over there. I remember looking out the window and seeing these rocky mountains and terrain, just like desert terrain. It's like, whoa, where am I going? Finally landed. I spent some time in Kandahar. Really brief memories of Kandahar. I remember a few missions that I didn't go on. I worked on helicopters in the base for the most part. I didn't really see anything until I went to Iraq, and that was a few years later, 2005. But I remember, I think I got promoted. Yeah. So finally, I spent a couple months in Kandahar. I remember they gave us these malaria pills. If you go back and research, these green malaria pills they gave us. Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Go look it up. That's where I was stationed at. Special operations. They were in Afghanistan. We were there in July of 2002. They were obviously in there. 9/11 happened. You better believe. Probably Delta Force first on the ground, but a lot of those SF guys were in there early, you know, battling, taking out these terrorist camps. So they gave us these malaria pills. They even had, I don't know if you know, DEET, I guess. We had to soak our uniforms in DEET, whatever it is, for like to prevent malaria, like keep mosquitoes away, like an insect repellent. It's crazy. Anyway, so these little green pills, big old pills, they weren't little, they were big. I remember taking them for about 2 weeks. And I had the craziest dreams you'd ever have in your life. So vivid, so crazy. I won't go into story about some of those dreams, but let me tell you, after about 2 weeks, I quit taking them. No more malaria pills for me. Forget it. Forget about it. Well, over the course of about 2 years at Fort Bragg, if you go look it up, I won't go into details, but several SF guys either killed their wives, in some cases even killed their whole family, children. It's tragic. I know it was a handful at least, and that was over a course of a couple of years. And since then, I mean, you really haven't heard anything, and that's weird. That's crazy that within a couple of years, those SF guys were the first guys taking those malaria pills. They did something to your brain, and I realized that. Even from my dreams, the dreams I were having, cut them off. No more malaria pills for this guy. So spent some time in Kandahar. I remember one time I was working the night shift, and I woke up in a puddle of sweat. My AC tent, and we had tents, bro. Let me tell you, we slept in tents, hot tents. I mean, it got hot over there. Not as hot as Kuwait. Kuwait was the worst. I remember one time in Kuwait, it got up to 129 degrees. It was crazy. But anyway, it was still hot. I remember waking up in just puddle of sweat. I worked the night shift, which is good, because normally I go back and sleep, AC tents, you know, go brush your teeth, take a quick shower, go to chow hall, come back, and sleep. Yeah. Well, I woke up one time in a puddle of sweat because the AC unit quit working. It was like, what time was it? It's probably like, because I worked the night shift. It's probably like 1 o'clock after lunch. But I'd already been asleep 5 hours because I had to go into work for the night shift. This guy wakes up in a puddle of sweat, and it was terrible. It was so hot. But I went into work early, like 5 hours early, because I couldn't sleep because it was too hot. AC was out. And then I remember they needed me up in, I'm a sheet metal guy. I'll tell you, I'll go into that later, what I did. So they flew me, I'm trying to remember. I think I flew on a helicopter. That's one little thing I don't think I can remember. I think I may have flew in a helicopter or a C-17, maybe. So they flew me to Bagram, Afghanistan. I remember getting to Bagram, and they actually had these like wooden tents, I guess, sleeping quarters set up. And before I got there, they were tents, and this area was covered in landmines. And actually, they said the tent they were first at before I got there, they actually found a landmine under it. Okay. So these landmines are from the Russian-Afghanistan war, and Russians left tons of landmines. Anyway, so they had these sleeping quarters. They were made out of wood. It was pretty cool. Had an AC unit hooked in them. My platoon slept in one quarter, like one wooden shack. And we had one lady that shared with us. Her name was, oh my goodness, really? I must be getting old. Anyway, she was my direct supervisor. And, we had woobies, I think they're called. We had them like covering our little sleeping quarters up, where we can go in there on our cots. I slept on a cot in Afghanistan. 6 months, not bad. 6 months is not bad. So I'm going through all these little details and I'm trying to get to one thing, which my experience with the locals. But so we'd sleep in there, get up in the morning, go to the airfield, half a mile away. We'd a little walk to the airfield, work on helicopters, do my job every day. And some days I would either have KP, which is kitchen patrol, where nightmare. So kitchen patrol, being a private, and this was before I got promoted to specialist eventually in Afghanistan, but you get woke up at 3:30 in the morning. Hey, so you got KP. You're like, seriously? Yeah, seriously. So you go brush your teeth and whatever, shave. Which back then, believe it or not, yeah, I got me a little beard on. Back then I couldn't hardly grow a beard, but I still had to shave. You get a little anything, you gotta get in trouble. Well, kitchen patrol, KP in Afghanistan was a nightmare. If you could do a reality TV show, if I could, I'll go back eventually and tell y'all stories about being the little bit of kitchen patrol we did in basic training and the lot of kitchen patrol I did at AIT before I started my actual class. But KP in Afghanistan was worse than prison. Yeah, I'm not kidding. So they wake you up 3:30 in the morning, you go in. So you got to work about 3 hours before breakfast comes in. I mean, you're washing stuff that was left over from the night before. When I say pots and pans and grease, you're on a camp with 5,000 soldiers from U.S., other countries. I remember the Romanians. This is interesting. Romanians, they would bring girls. I don't know if they're their wives or what, but each Romanian group had a couple of ladies and they weren't soldiers. We'll just leave it at that. And this is what I've been told. I don't know. I won't get into it, but yeah. So you got to interact with some of the other countries that were there. But KP, and I actually learned this from KP because they would come in and anyway. So you get there, you work about 3 hours. washing, scrubbing, prepping. I mean, you got 5,000 soldiers on this camp, and breakfast starts, I want to say, about 6 a.m. So maybe 6:30. Lines and lines and lines of soldiers. So it would run from like 6 a.m. to like 9:30 a.m. And you do kitchen patrol. You might start out doing setting and prepping, like the where they eat, prepping the regular lines, or pots and pans. I always got stuck on pots and pans. They must not like me. Special self pots and pans. It was the worst. I don't know if you guys ever worked in uh, like a restaurant, but when you're feeding 5,000 people and you're doing pots and pans for 5,000 people, it's non-stop. You look at your hands. I mean, you're a soldier. You do what you're told. I did what I was told. Trust me. They, you, they tell me to drop in the mud. I did. I've got video or pictures. Get down in the mud, start rolling around like a dog, back, forth, back, forth. I did it. Got videos of it. We won't even go into that. That was about because I left my wallet in the open area. One of the sergeants got my wallet. This is when I was a specialist and said, if you want your wallet back, you got to do everything every NCO commanding officer tells you to do. And they came up with some crazy stuff. But anyway, it's terrible. But anyway, whatever. It's hazing. But I did it because I don't say no. I was a soldier. I am a soldier. Used to be. Well, anyway, pots and pans were terrible. And I'm getting here delayed here talking about. So let's just go quick. I remember this one time, Sergeant Wheeler. He's one of my best friends. He's from Jersey. Kip Wheeler. 18 Wheeler. My homeboy. Miss him. But haven't heard from him in forever. We were on KP duty together. Remember one time, it was literally, remember how I told you 3:30 in the morning? Well, we did breakfast, had a 30-minute break. We got to finally eat breakfast. Everybody ate breakfast. Then we have right back at it. Boom, getting ready for lunch. So we was going from 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock to 11:30. We had to get everything ready for lunch. Clean up all them pots and pans from breakfast. Go out, eat. We had not even 30, 15 minutes. We eat, back to work. Lunch was like 4 hours because feeding 5,000 people, they had to get them in and out. And let me tell you, they ain't no AC. This is Afghanistan, in the hottest period of Afghanistan. We were sweating back there. And with the heat from the water to wash these pots and pans in the kitchen, it was a nightmare. And we're back there scrubbing. Lunch is over. And then finally, you think you get caught up, right? A couple hours after lunch, so 2, 3 o'clock, you think you get caught up. And then they're like, okay, we need you to go do these details. You got to go to a Connex. You got to unload napkins. Got to unload spoons. I mean, they work you like, you would like a dog. So we're working. You know, you're a soldier. You do what you told. And if I could go back and show people what I made back when I was in the Army, I think my first year full year, I made like $15,000. Kid you not. Yeah, we got free health care. We got to go to the clinic and they tell you, suck it up and drive on, soldier. I got many ailments right now from the Army, you know. I try to stay out of the VA. I ain't been in there, but I may need to go one day. Who knows? But anyway, so we got past lunch. Here we are in between lunch and dinner, right? Dinner, let's say, start 5 o'clock. So we get to eat a little bit beforehand. 5 o'clock, I think we ate at 5 o'clock, 5:30. They give us 30 minutes. And boom, as soon as we start eating, here comes that line. It's nonstop from like 6 o'clock to like 9:30. Because you're feeding 5,000 people, soldiers. Pots and pans. 9:30's over. Now remember, you woke up at 3:30 in the morning. You got shook up, and you were there by 5. You brush your teeth. Didn't have this to shave, but you shaved your little scrubs. Maybe took a quick cold shower. Here we are. Dinner's over. And I kid you not. Say 9 o'clock, we'll say. All of 9, all of 10, all 11. It's midnight. And you've been scrubbing pots and pans for 3 straight hours. With maybe 3 or 4 other people. It's midnight. Pushing midnight. Here you are. You've been up since 3:30 in the morning. And I just want to say, I don't know if the Army's still like this, military's still like this. I don't know if there's many people that can do that today. I ain't bragging. I'm just saying. But here you are midnight. I mean, you're a deadbeat. You're deadbeat. You've been on your feet in boots. You're wearing your military uniform. We got to take her top off. We had a brown under t-shirt. You still got your boots on. Hell, heck. You still got your military cover you had to wear. So here it is, midnight. And back in the day, I used to smoke cigarettes back in. And back then, when on KP, you didn't smoke much, but you'd have you a break every now and then. I remember going back there, me and Sergeant Wheeler. He said, smoke his Newport. He'd be like, Sil, I'm done. Blank, blank, blank. I ain't gonna say the word. Blank, blank, blank. He said, watch me. Flip a cigarette out. He ran in there. And I'm still out there. I'm taking my time. I'm relaxing, Say relax 5 minutes. He comes back out carrying maybe 7 or 8 big old pots and pans. And now we're back smoking near the dumpster. He takes everyone in. He throws them in the dumpster. I'm done. He said, we're going back. He said, and actually I want to say he was E5 at the time. He said, we're going back to our tent. He went back in there. I went back in there. He told the kitchen patrol sergeant, but they were strenuous. They were strict. He said, we done. We're going home. He said, come on, Sil. And me and him went back to our tent. We get in there. It's midnight. I'm not going to take a shower. I should. I mean, dude, you're so exhausted. You take your BDU top off. It's a battle dress uniform, if you don't know. Take it off. You got your brown t-shirt underneath. I just didn't sleep with anything. I took my t-shirt off, got my skivvies, and crawled up into my sleeping bag, which 6 months I had that sleeping bag. I tell you what, I never washed it one time. Don't tell nobody. But, I survived and just went to sleep. Anyway, that's a KP. See, I get thrown off. Wasn't even what I was going to tell you about kitchen patrol, but we'd go to work every day. There were stories. I remember landmines blowing up from a distance, scaring me. Look, I'm walking down the flight line. Boom! You could feel it. Like, almost give you a heart attack. But some days, there was a few days where I got assigned to guard locals. When I say locals, they're Afghanis. So basically, they'd take 3 soldiers on a detail, and you would guard 50, I think it was 40 to 50 Afghanis. And you would have to drive in your LMTV to pick them up at the front gate. They'd ride in the back. And, 3 soldiers sit up front, drive back. They all get out. You got to be accountable for 50 locals, Afghanis. Short story, so that there are a lot of people that want to work that were locals. They get paid $1 a day not by the U.S. government, by a contractor. Who the contractor got paid a lot of money. But these locals probably get paid $1 a day. And all we'd do, I'd sit there and on this corner, had some guys sit on this corner, and we guard them every 2 hours and make sure we're accountable. Three of us, we'd each have about 15, 20. I can remember treating them like people. I'm a young man, Christian. You know, I don't know much about the Muslim religion. Um, our interpreter, he was Muslim, spoke English, and I treat them all like human beings. Now, a couple of other guys that I did this duty with, I can remember they wanted to take a few around the corner, hold up their guns, not loaded, but still wrong, to their head. Like they got a prisoner or something. Had them on their knees. It's crazy. It was ridiculous. Anyway, they would be mean to them, talk about their mothers, and I don't know if you know. Obviously, women were looked at different. You definitely don't call them a mother, that bad word. It was very derogatory. Very, 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 very bad. And they would do this just try to get them mad. And the translator pulled me to the side one time, and there were some elders, 5 elders. And when I say elders, they were like in their 60s, early 60s. I'm not bragging about this, but they said thank you. And they said you are a very wise person. For even though you're young, you're very wise, and we appreciate your kindness and hospitality, and not treating us all like we're terrorists. Now they said that to the translator, and the translator told me. And the translator was young; he was probably in his 30s. And they asked me, so we want you to join us for our lunch. And they would have a chef out of the 50 people. One man would sit by an open fire, and he would make a big old, think about a big old pot, like what's that, witch's pot, the big old black pot, over an open fire. And it was full of had chicken, soupy chicken. And they basically, and this bread, Afghanistan has some of the best bread in the world. Very good bread. They gave me my own bowl. No silverware. We eat with our hands. Rice and chicken. And the bread. Amazing. Now, the other 50 Afghanis were all around me, and I was by myself. Other 2 soldiers, they said, we're not eating with them. They're like, you're weird, basically. But it's like, whatever. I'm a human, they're humans. Okay? I'm not treating everybody like everybody's Osama bin Laden, because they're not. Could there have been terrorists there? Maybe. But I remember eating with them, and so they would share 3 or 4 of them would share one bowl of chicken rice. They'd all have their hands in one bowl, just eating like this. And I remember at the end, I had some nacho cheese combos. Big old bag, like I got from the PX. And I'll tell you the PX story later. It's crazy. I would wait in line for 4 hours. 4 hours to get into this PX, post exchange, because they would only allow 10. Remember, 5,000 soldiers, they'd only allow 10 in at one time because it was real small. So you go in there and there'd be 500 people in line. Take 4 hours to get in. Anyway, we'll get into that later. So I'm eating with them, and I pull out this big old combo cheese bag, and there's 50 total, but then there's around me, we're all just gathered up, probably 30 of them, not 30, but 20, in a real big huddle with me. And I pull out this combos, and I hand it over as a gesture, thank you here's my 20 hands go in and grab that combos bag and rips it. I mean, this big bag gets ripped and combos go everywhere. And they're diving on the ground, going for these combos. Them combos were gone in like 2 minutes. And we're all giggling. I don't speak a lick of Farsi. You know, they'd always say "bachi boss." We want to go what that means, "bachi balish." Owl, but kabush kush. I won't want to go in that. I won't even speak my Afghani. But I remember they thanked me. They really appreciated me eating with them, breaking bread per se. They knew I was a Christian. And back to work. They're the ones that sold me those Russian belts. Mister, $5, Mister. I remember one time. So one of those days, probably that day, we had to take them back to the main gate, which wasn't too far, maybe a mile away. So they had to load up in the back of our troop carrier, which was troop carrier, LMTV, light, medium, tactical vehicle. Maybe 20 soldiers, maybe 25 can fit in there comfortably. We'd fit 50 Afghanis in the back. Most of them be sitting in the middle. They'd be sitting on each other's lap. I mean, it was crowded. It was packed back there. And typically us 3 soldiers that guarded the 50 would sit up in the front. Well, here I am. I just broke bread with these guys. I'm like, okay. I took my M16. Yeah, I had an M16, not an M4. Gave it to one of my soldier partners or whatever's on guard duty. And told him, take this, I'm getting in the back. Yeah, I'm getting in the back. Gave him my weapon. And I jumped in the back with 50 Afghanis. And I sit up towards the back. You know, back then I was about a buck 75. I was pretty stout. Oh yeah. Yeah. You want to know about old Chris Self? Yeah, we'll get into that later. We won't even get into that, but I wasn't one to be messed with. But I remember sitting there, and it was bumpy road, blah, 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 blah. And I'm back there, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. I'm sitting there like I am here. All these Afghanis, they were looking at me like I was a king or something. You know, they're all staring at me, and they're smiling. And they asked the translator, said, "Why didn't you bring your weapon?" Basically. And I said, So I carried a buck knife, one of them Rambo knives. I actually carried it right here on my hip. So I pulled up my BDU top and I pointed at it like that. And all of them thought that was the funny, like I must be a comedian. They all died laughing. You know, there's 50 of them and one of me, and they asked the translator to ask me why I didn't bring my M16. Like, who is he? So I pulled my Rambo knife out and they laughed. And I remember bouncing around, and one of them lost his balance and he grabbed my arm. Like, he grabbed my bicep with both of his hands. And his eyes got bigger than silver dollars. And I don't know what he's like, and then the translator said, "Whoa, American, big old muscles." And it was hilarious. But anyway, so we went and dropped them off. And oh my gosh, I have so many more stories. I mean, I'll have to get back on another day, tell them. Afghanistan, Iraq, flying on missions, down helicopters. But I'll get back. I got to share these stories. I mean, a lot of people don't want to hear them, but some people do. Heck, maybe one day, and makes me want to cry sometimes. Just think about that. I forget stuff. You know, I'm 44 now, and stuff I forget all the time. Anyway, have a good night.